Welcome to the Betting About the Rim podcast. Today's date, June 4th, episode 155. Let's get started with our tip-off topics with changes in Gotham. After I said I would be surprised if Tom Thibodeau got let go on the podcast on Monday. Well, sure enough, on Tuesday, they let him go. Leon Rose released a statement dismissing Tom Thibodeau, basically thanking Tom Thibodeau and saying in so many words, this is about the championship window and actually capitalizing on the opportunity. My producer, Matty George, actually called it more than I did. I thought that Tibbs was going to get another chance. A Tom Thibodeau's team, Knicks team, that made the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000. A team that made the playoffs in 4 out of the last 5 years. Go look at the track record before that. You could argue that since Pat Riley, definitely since Van Gundy, he's been the most successful coach for the Knicks. And he kind of took the Knicks from being a laughingstock in the league when everybody thought James Dolan was the worst owner in pro sports, to a team that's on the cusp of winning an NBA championship. The answer is, the question is why? Why would New York do this to someone that really rebuilt the image and the culture of the team? If you dig deeper, game one was probably the reason why you lost it. But if you really dig deep, offensively, they were a mess down the stretch. It was way too much iso ball for Jalen Brunson. You can talk about the series against Atlanta in whatever that was, 2021, 2022, where it was iso ball with Julius Randle. It was just, it wore thin on the players. Tom Thibodeau also has a way of playing his starters way too many minutes. And I think you saw it in Indiana as they played more guys. Tibbs literally went to his bench in game 3, folks, because Cat and Jalen Brunson got in a major foul trouble. He didn't go to his bench because he wanted to. He went to bench because he had to. There's also been talk about disconnect with the players, not knowing their roles, not knowing where they stood in the rotation. So there were a lot of issues with New York and Tibbs. That being said, every Knicks fan needs to get on their hands and knees and thank him for what he's done. And also pray that the Knicks get the next coach right. Because if the Knicks don't make the NBA Finals, and looking at some books, they could be the favorites in the East right now based on what we have coming back. If they don't make the Finals, it's going to look bad on Leon Rose. So who could be a candidate? Number one, you have to look at Michael Malone, former head coach of the Denver Nuggets from Astoria, New York. That's in Queens, by the way. New York City guy, New York made, coach that's got a championship pedigree and a proven track record, not just what he did in Denver, but what he did in Sacramento before that, and he should have been fired from there either. Then you get to the college guys. You're going to hear, obviously, Jay Wright, because of the Villanova connection, South Jersey connection. Also, remember, folks, Jay Wright's from Long Island. So this would be kind of coming home for him. Do I see Jay Wright leaving CBS Sports? Do I see Jay Wright leaving his job as an ambassador at Villanova? I reached out to a couple of people at Villanova. I've got conflicting answers, so I'm going to say probably not going to be interested. Then there's Dan Hurley. Well, you're going to say, why didn't he take the Lakers job? Because it was 3,000 miles away. The Hurleys are Northeast people, Jersey people. So Dan can convince his wife to take the Knicks job and be right back home where he grew up in Jersey City. Do I think Dan's leaving UConn? Probably not. He's the best coach in college basketball, one of the highest paid. Obviously, money talks, so we'll see what happens there. A couple other names that people are now starting to mention as regards to who the Knicks could be interested in that are under contract. Jason Kidd. Remember, people are like, well, he can't leave Dallas. Remember, he was with Dallas, and he spurned them to become a free agent to play for the Knicks. Loved living in New York City, even when he was with the Nets. And then there's Ime Udoka, who did a tremendous job in Boston, got ran out of Boston because of his allegations off the court, really rebuilt his image at Houston, where I thought that he should have been NBA Coach of the Year. But that's a pit stop for him. It's kind of like, I'm going to give a shout. I was talking to Kevin Walsh before. He's like, kind of like Patino going to Iona and then going to St. John's. Rebuild his reputation and then go. I was like, K-Dub, you're absolutely right. So maybe someone like Ime Udoka would be the home run hire. But the guy that's probably getting the job is Johnny Bryant. Johnny Bryant, former associate head coach for the Knicks, brought in, not by Tibbs, by World Wide Wes and Leon Rose, someone that's very close to Jalen Brunson, left to go coach with Kenny Atkinson with Cleveland. So I think it's probably going to be Johnny Bryant. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ime. Speaking of Johnny Bryant, he was a finalist for the Phoenix Suns job. And Phoenix just landed their head coach and Cleveland Cavs assistant Jordan Ott. This is a young guy that's really known for his offensive and defensive creativity. And he's been around the block. He may look young, but he's got a lot of experience. And his ability to develop young players will be something that can be key as Phoenix starts to rebuild. Congrats to Jordan Ott on his first head coaching job. But that means if I'm talking about a rebuild, that means someone's got to go. And it's been widely reported that the Suns are going to try to do whatever they can to trade Kevin Durant. They're going to work with KD to try and find the right spot for him. Could it be Gotham, where he didn't want to come before as a free agent when he teamed with Kyrie to go to the Nets? But either way, no matter where KD goes, it's going to allow the rebuild to happen for Phoenix and Jordan Ott. As we get to the finals, it was something that's pretty interesting. We're going to call it the Paul George effect. There was an interesting tweet that Matty George found. And I want people to realize how much Paul George is connected to the finals. Do you know in 2017, Paul George was with the Indiana Pacers, a.k.a. Playoff P. And he got traded to the Thunder for Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo and Sabonis in trades turned around and got you Andrew Nembhard, Isaiah Jackson, Ben Shepherd, and then obviously in the trade for Sabonis, they got Tyrese Halliburton. So think about how Indiana's core has been made from this. But it gets even better than this. 2019, he gets shipped from Oklahoma City to the Clippers. And the main young piece in that trade was SGA, who they used a draft pick on, Jalen Williams. This year, pick swap with the Clippers, which moves them from 30th to 24th. And then the crazy one is through a trade through Miami to the Clippers to OKC. Oklahoma City now have the 15th pick. So Oklahoma City Thunder spun it into their starting backcourt, a pick swap, and 2 first-round picks. Playoff P, delivering for every team but the one he was playing on. The playoff P effect is it real, and it's real for the NBA Finals. Coming up next, we will get into our award tour. We'll look at some series props. We'll look at SGA, Jalen Williams, Siakam, Halliburton for their points per game average during the finals. We'll look at the rebounds for SGA, Chet, and Siakam. We'll look at the assist prop for SGA and Halliburton. And we'll look at some series specials as we get into our award tour, NBA Finals Edition. We'll be back after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 155, and it's time to get into our award tour as we break down future markets in the NBA. In this edition of talking about the NBA Finals, after using the last podcast to kind of go with series leaders, Matt and I thought it was a good job to kind of do points per game props and then look at some specials that the FanDuel Sportsbook, which do a great job with the NBA Finals. Make sure you check out FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's get into first points per game. SGA to average 33.5 points per game. Jalen Williams to go over 22.5. Pascal Siakam over 19.5. And Tyrese Halliburton over 17.5 points per game. Let's start with SGA. I think SGA goes over this number. When we talked about this last podcast, is when you think about Naismith, Shepard, Nembhard guarding Brunson, you got to realize that SGA is 5 inches taller, maybe even 6. I think he's going to be able to get to his shot. And if you think Jalen Brunson baits you in the fouls, no one's better than a free throw merchant, SGA. Remember, he also had a 45-point game versus these same Indiana Pacers during the regular season. So I just don't see a matchup there where I can look at Indiana and say, that guy's going to really put him in jail. SGA over 33.5 because I also think Indiana's going to push the pace. Williams, I can't really give a pick on. Siakam can be tight. I'm comfortable with Tyrese Halliburton going under 17.5. One, he's going to give you 1 or 2 stinkers that are not going to be good. Well, I think he's only going 5. So if he gives you 2 stinkers out of 5, 2 single-digit performances, we're in great shape. It's about the other 3 games. With SGA, with Lou Dort, with Caruso, with Keyshawn Wallace, they have a multitude of defenders to throw at Tyrese Halliburton. And I really believe that Mark Daigneault's team was the best defensive team in the league. Believes in cutting the head off at the snake. Look what they did to Ant-Man. Look what they did at times to the Joker. They're going to cut the head off the snake. And then one of the reasons why I think the series goes 5 games or less is because I think they're going to put Tyrese Halliburton in jail. Tyrese Halliburton under 17.5. Let's go to the assist market. SGA over under 6.5. Halliburton over 9.5. Both are tight. They're extremely sharp. If you ask me who goes over, who goes under, to me, it's going to be SGA over, Halliburton under. There's going to be a lot of pace to this series. And I think Rick Carlisle is going to try to get the ball out of SGA's hands when he can. Maybe more double teams, try and wear him out by getting up and down. I like over 6.5 assists. So when you look at Halliburton, remember this. Every game that Tyrese Halliburton, ready, has gotten 10 assists or more this playoff season, Indiana's won. So think about this for a second. If you think the Thunder are going to win, why are you going to think Halliburton to go over its assist prop? Doesn't make sense, does it? At least for me, it doesn't. So if you think Halliburton's going to go over 9.5 assists per game, average double digits, take that and take the Pacers to win the series. Because that's what they're going to be able to do. I don't see this happening. But if you think he's going to go over 9.5 assists, you better go take the Pacers to win the series. Because that's the only chance they got. So I'm going under 9.5 for Tyrese Halliburton. But if you go over, be my guest. you may want to look at the Pacers to win the series. Rebounding market, SGA over 5.5, Chet over 5.5, Siakam over 8.5. Now, I told you last episode I thought that Jalen Williams was going to win most rebounds, mainly because it's a value play. So I think Siakam goes under. I think Chet goes under. I think SGA, if he wants to push the break, goes over. The guys I wish they would have had up is Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams and Miles Turner. I can see Hartenstein getting a ton of rebounds, right? But he's got to be guarded by Miles Turner. So for this market, the most comfortable, best bet to me is probably Siakam under 8.5 because he's got to keep Chet off the boards. But also, Chet is going to be on the perimeter. Let's really quick go to the series specials. There's a ton of them. Hopefully you guys can see them. But I'm going to give you the ones I like. SGA to score 25-plus points in every game, minus 115. I think that is a lock. Miles Turner scored 10-plus points every game at plus 240. I like that because I think he's going to have to score. There's going to be a ton of points. And if you get regression from guys like Halliburton, the points are going to come from somewhere. I worry about the other guards getting into foul trouble. Miles Turner to get 10-plus points in every game. Matty, George, and I agree. Pascal Siakam to be 1+ made 3 in every game because I think you will have, at times, Chet Holmgren worry about protecting the rim. So I would take a look at that. And then Matt George's other two plays, if he tells them to me really quick, are SGA to make 1 made 3 at plus 140. So I like SGA 25-plus points in every game. Miles Turner 10-plus in every game. Matt likes SGA 1+ made 3 every game. We both like Siakam 1+ made 3 every game. Coming up next, we'll get into our scouting report as we break down game number 1 of the NBA Finals. Can the Pacers shock the world? I'm going to tell you where I think you can play the Pacers because I don't think they're going to win. We'll be back with our scouting report after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 155, and it's time to get into our scouting report as we break down games in the NBA, and if we have time, the WNBA. Let's just easily start with game number 1 of the NBA Finals. Lines are out. They have not moved much at all since they came out after the Pacers eliminated the Knicks over the weekend. Oklahoma City Thunder are minus 9.5-point favorites. They are minus 400, 405 on the money line, 315 plus 320 for the Pacers. Over-under sitting at about 231. Number 1, I think the game goes over because I think Indiana's going to try and see if they can really push this pace as much as possible to try and get this up and down because they know they can't win a half-court game. I don't think Oklahoma City matters because I think they can beat you anyway, whether you play fast or play slow. Here's how I'd play the game on the side. I think that if you look at Oklahoma City closely, 15-2 game 7 versus Denver, last 2 minutes of the second quarter. You look at games 1, games 2, right, against Timberwolves. Fourth quarter game 1, third quarter game 2. They tend to play really well in the second half. So I'm willing to take the 5.5 points in the first half for the Indiana Pacers. I think they find a way to keep it close. And then in the second half, and specifically the third quarter spread is minus 2.5. You could look at right then and there that they're going to win it. If you want to take Oklahoma City with a lot of juice, minus 170 to win the third, I think they come out and they take them out to the woodshed. So if you can find second half, take the Thunder minus the second half. If you can't, like FanDuel has third quarter, fourth quarter, take the Thunder minus 2.5 in the third quarter and then take maybe Oklahoma City on the money line in the fourth, which is at minus 144. Player props, I'm going to stick with one right now. Isaiah Hartenstein over 14.5 points plus rebounds. I think that push floater is going to be in play. I think Miles Turner don't want that smoke. And I think Isaiah Hartenstein, that is a very low number for someone that's going to be have a big part in this series because of his ability to get defensive and offensive rebounds. That also scoring in the paint helps negate the fast break. As usual, tomorrow or Thursday, be on the lookout for my scouting report, which I'll have more plays for game one of the NBA Finals. Let's head to the W really quick because there's a couple of games on the slate for tomorrow. First off, the Liberty minus 12. Folks, the Liberty are they're just boat racing teams. The only game they haven't looked good and didn't cover was the second game versus the Valkyries when they didn't have John Paul Jones. I told you she's the most important part of that team. Not Stewie, not Sab, not Natasha Cloud, not anyone. Double J's playing, and the Mystics are starting to struggle a little bit after starting off hot. Lost last night to the Indiana Fever. I'm going to lay the points with the New York Liberty to go ahead and get it done at minus 12. If you want to take it to Liberty in the first half of the game, I would not be mad at you. New York Liberty first half spread right now is sitting at 7.5. They only won their last game by 50 doggone points. Second game in the WNBA is the Valkyries at the Mercury. It's about 7.5, 8. Valkyries have been markedly better at 2-4. They've been competitive. So the question is number one, do we get Alyssa Thomas back? You look at the fact that I would be looking at Satu Sabali, minus 140, over 5.5 points. She's going to play the majority of the first quarter. She's going to get the shot attempts, whether you have Alyssa Thomas or not, because Alyssa Thomas's game is not predicated on scoring. It's on getting people involved. I like over 5.5 points in the first quarter. And this is a game I'll probably play live, but if I lean one way, I'm going to go under 157 with the Phoenix Mercury. They actually are one of the best defensive teams and defensive rating in the WNBA. This has been the Betting Above the Rim podcast for June 4th. For all things sports gambling, download that SportsGrid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. We'll be back to preview, that would be game number 3 of the NBA Finals, recap the WNBA, and start to talk more about the NBA draft. For Matt and Vinny, this is Coach Young. Remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Good night.